Oh, yummy. I just love chocolate chip cookies. Guys, if you're looking for a great recipe to make a wonderful batch of these cookies, then I'll tell you what, check this out. You're going to love what you find. Howdy guys, welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. On this episode, we get to make a fantastic dish. This is chocolate chip cookies. Who doesn't love chocolate chip cookies? Come on, really. I tell you what, I'm going to be showing you guys a wonderful recipe here. It's going to be one that you can really show off to your friends. We're going to take that base recipe and I want to teach you a little secret of mine and how to bump it up. Just that little extra notch, so that you have a cookie that people say, wow, they make the best tasting chocolate chip cookie I've ever had. You'll be surprised how this works, guys. It's great. Now, for those of you who are watching the cook along tutorial, this is going to be a really good series for you. Season 3 starts with sweets, treats, and fermented beverages. And on the sweets part, well, what we're going to be doing is teaching a lot of baking here, and I'm really looking forward to this. This show, even though it's a simple chocolate chip cookie, is going to give you some of the fundamentals and basics of baking. Some things that are really important. We're going to learn how to add volume to your cookie dough that will help it to rise and produce a much finer quality cookie. And I'm going to show you how to put things together in such a way that you get a better flavor. So I'll tell you what, guys, let's get in the kitchen and let's look at those ingredients and let's get busy making some of the best tasting chocolate chip cookies that you're ever going to put in your mouth. Come on, let's go. All right, guys, there we have it. Wonderful ingredients for chocolate chip cookies. Now let's discuss what we have going on here. First of all, right over here in this bowl, and this is my mixing bowl. And I want to say this, you can do this by hand, guys, but it is a lot of arm work. You'd be much better off purchasing a mixer. Even if it's a low cost one or just a hand mixer, that will work for this too, okay? So don't shy away from it. Even if it's a simple one, try that electric mixer. That way you save a lot of arm work. Down in this bowl, 2 sticks of butter. You want those things to be about room temperature. We have to have them nice and soft because we are going to do what's called creaming, guys. Creaming is when you take that butter and you beat it. You beat it hard and fast. And what that does is it softens it, but at the same time, as you're doing that, you're gently working in small amounts of air. And it causes the butter to actually grow in volume. Okay, so we call this creaming, and creaming, it softens, it adds air. The air is important because once that is in the butter and we mix the rest of the dough up, that air is still in there. We put that dough on the cookie sheet, pop it in the oven. The air inside of it expands and produces part of the texture of the cookie. So it is a very important thing. All right. Also, we're going to be using another agent that produces carbon dioxide. We'll get into that in a moment. The other ingredients I have, now that was 1 cup of butter, by the way, so you'll know. By measurement, 1 cup of butter, 2 sticks, all right? 2.5 cups of flour. You can use any kind of flour you want for this, guys. If it's an all-purpose flour, fine, bread flour, whatever works for you, works for this recipe. It's a very versatile recipe. You can play with it with a lot of different ingredients, okay? Also, this is a heritage recipe. There's nothing proprietary to this, guys. Okay, nobody owns this one because it's been made for generations in the United States, and all I've done is make a slight tweak on it. So it's mine. No, I'm just messing with you. All right, sugars. We have 2 kinds of sugar. Now, most of the recipes that you'll see for chocolate chip cookies are going to say packed brown sugar, and that's what that is right there. As you see, it slid right out of my measuring cup and into this bowl, and it's still packed, okay? So that's what they refer to when they say packed brown sugar. Pack it into the cup. When it's full, that's the amount you need. 1 cup of granulated sugar. I'm using a raw form of a cane sugar. I have 2 eggs here, and then there's the goodies. Of course, it's chocolate chip cookies, so you gotta have the chocolate chips. But nobody says that you have to use exactly the chocolate chips that are sold as chocolate chips. If there's a certain type of candy bar you prefer, you can put it in the freezer and then bash it with the bottom of a skillet or a hammer to make chips. Bam, use those. You're just gonna need 12 ounces of them, okay? Chocolate chips. I am using a semi-sweet morsel because the cookie's already sweet, so I don't need a cloying sweet chip. And if I put a milk chocolate chip in there, it makes the cookie too sweet. So consider that when you're doing this. Dark chocolates or semi-sweet chocolates work very well in chocolate chip cookies. Nuts. You're going to need 1 cup of nuts. Doesn't matter what kind of nuts you get, guys. You can use pistachios, you can use almonds, you can use Brazil nuts, peanuts. I'm using pecans. You can put walnuts in there too. Pecans are all over Texas, and this is Texas Cooking Today, so hey, pecans, folks. Down here, 2 ingredients. I have some salt, 1 teaspoon of salt. And on that salt, I would like to mention, remember, table salt or fine granulated salt measures and weighs differently than sea salt, or what some people call kosher salt, the large granule salt. So if you're using a large granule salt, grind it down a little bit first and then remeasure it, so that you can get the kind of measurement that was done on those recipe labels, because they don't use kosher salt in baking, folks. All right? So if you do have kosher and that's all you have, you need to grind it a little. Right here, 1 teaspoon baking soda. Now I mentioned before, we're going to be creating carbon dioxide. Baking soda isn't a flavor, okay? It tastes awful. What we're using it for is to create carbon dioxide in our batter. Now the thing of this is, and this is important to know, this is not the kind of recipe that you can make one day, store it in the fridge, and then have it to cook in small batches, because those small batches of cookies are not going to cook up right. If you've ever tried this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the reason is, it's important, we're cooking this recipe using baking soda. Now, baking soda is going to release carbon dioxide 1 time, okay? And that's going to be when it comes in contact with an acid. And that's going to happen when we mix this batch up, because we have acidic items in our cookie dough. The butter right there, just the fat in the butter, that's acidic. Okay, and so the acids are going to react with the baking soda. The baking soda is going to kick off carbon dioxide, and it's going to help those cookies to rise. So when you get everything mixed, there is a time window that you have, all right? There's a time window for getting that batter from being mixed onto the sheet and into the oven. And it isn't 3 or 4 hours, okay? So it needs to be done immediately after the dough is made. Also, it's very unsafe to produce a dough that has raw egg in it and then set it aside. Certainly don't eat any of it raw, guys. That's very dangerous. And don't let your kids lick the beaters on this, because again, raw egg, not necessarily safe. So here we have all these wonderful ingredients, 2 left, and that is 2 teaspoons vanilla extract. Very common on this recipe. You'll see it in almost every single one of them. And then here's our secret ingredient. This is the one ingredient, this little empty looking dish right here. In the bottom there is a clear liquid down in there. That is 1 teaspoon of almond extract. It's a secret. Don't tell your friends. Just put it in there and watch them be surprised. Why do your cookies taste so good? They're so rich. It'll be your little secret, guys. So a little bit of almond extract makes it just pop. Turns it into a completely and much more rich kind of dessert. Completely different. It's fantastic. Now guys, let's get over to our mixer and get busy creaming that butter. That's the next thing we have to do. Come on, let's go. Okay guys, now before we get busy with all of our mixing, Number one, let's turn that oven on. We got to set it for 375 degrees. So go ahead and do that right now. You want to get that thing preheated while you're doing the prep. And it takes just about the right amount of time to prep this as it does to preheat that oven. All right, flour, salt, gently, break that up, gently dust that salt across the top and mix it in. Some people use a sifter for this. If you wish to do that, you can. Then the baking powder. And what I'm doing here is I'm just keeping myself from having lumps of salt or baking powder or anything like that. It's not clumped up in one spot. So I just do this, kind of get it mixed all together real well. There. Our flour mixture, the dry ingredients, they're ready to go. Now guys, what you need to do is sort of just separate your ingredients into batches. The first batch is what we're going to cream. There's our butter and our sugar and that brown sugar. Now, when creaming, we have to make the fat, which is the butter, light and fluffy. Right now it's already soft, as you can see, very soft. All I need to do is finish up that softening. And I'm going to turn this on. We're going to crank it up to a good high speed and you'll see what happens here. Now, guys, come on over this way and let's look right down in the bowl and see what we have going on. All right, now the advantage of this is you get to see the exact same thing that I see. Turn this on to begin with. Don't crank this on high right off. You don't want stuff being thrown out of there. Don't put all of your ingredients inside of one of these because, got news for you, it's going to kick some of it back out at you. And certainly don't put body parts. Like my fingers are a bit close here. Keep them off of the bowl and away from it, okay? Now I'm going to speed that up a little. And we're going to let it cream for a little bit. We're going to let it get light and fluffy. We'll just let that go at it, guys. All right, guys, that was my beeper. That was 1 minute. Now I'm going to speed this up a little bit. I've gotten it good and soft, and it's really fluffy and starting to work out. Here we go. Okay, guys, I have given that 1 more minute. So as you can see, not a lot of time so far, and yet this has become very light. Beautiful, spreadable, beautiful whipped butter. My goodness. Now the reason I lift this up is so I can put a spatula down inside of the bowl, and I'm just going to scrape it free from the sides and from the bottom. And this is done on purpose, guys. What happens in a mixer, in pretty much any mixer, even those like this that have a paddle, that have the rubber spatula attached to the paddle, it still needs to occasionally be rubbed down, because on that one that has the rubberized paddle, it still pushes material up above the beater, so you have to remove that from the sides even still. So just keep yourself one of these little spatulas handy, because you're going to be using it on a regular basis when you're making cookies, okay? So lock that and get it growing again. I'm going to cream that for 1 more minute, and then we're going to start working in the sugar. All right, guys, look at that. Our butter has fluffed up. It's almost doubled in bulk in there, guys. It's turned a lighter color. It's very, very smooth and creamy. Just lovely. Now what I want to do is I want to turn this on a lower speed, and I'm going to start creaming in some of the sugar. Before I do that though, just like I did before, I'm going to break it free from the upper sides, right up here. Though my beater will catch what's below, that was pushed up above it. Okay? How's that for the best close-up view you're ever going to get of making cookies? And very gently, I'm just going to start working in some of that sugar. Now if you'll notice, a little bit at a time, not all at once. And again, this is something I have to forewarn you guys about, and you need to know it. If you're not used to using one of these mixers, especially like the one that you're looking at here, if you throw all of your ingredients in there and crank it on high, it's going to throw them right back at you, okay? So to get them to stay in the bowl, you have to take your time. A little more. And this is going to work that sugar into the butter. And again, the processing, it's all about that in this game. Be careful. You don't want to get anything down in that bowl, because that paddle will catch it and rip whatever it is to pieces. Whether it be a bowl, your spatula, your finger, your arm, whatever. That brown sugar, just kind of break it up a little bit so it's no longer packed. And gently work it in. Just a tablespoon or two at a time. Now guys, you should be able to see right here and now how having a mixer of some kind can save you a little bit of arm work. This right here illustrates very well what I'm talking about when it kicks it up. As you can see, we have fresh butter that's not mixed in with those sugars yet, and it was pushed up above that paddle. And this is a common trait of this type of mixer. And it's not a bad thing, it's just part of the way it is. Now, we're going to go for a little more creaming. Guys, I worked it hard on that. And frankly, it was almost 1 minute worth, as you can see from our little timer there. Now, I've reached the impasse here. I have this wonderful, fluffy, lightly granulated, buttery sugar compound. It's absolutely beautiful. It's totally delicious. That alone by itself is just worth eating right there. Boy, talk about a spread for your toast in the morning. That would be it. Now guys, let's go ahead and begin slipping in those eggs, and then we're going to put in the extracts, and then I'm going to slowly start working in the flour. And that is the point at which we start activating that baking powder. Okay, you remember I told you that we're going to be getting carbon dioxide from the baking powder. So we want that baking powder to hit at just the right time. That was the reason we have that oven heating. Now what we're going to do is, after we get the flour in there, we're going to just fold in our other ingredients gently with the machine, letting it do the work. And after that, we have our cookie dough ready to go. So here we are. Let's get that running on slow. Let's just get these eggs down in here. Boom. Just going to slip them in one at a time. As that's gently going, let's put in our vanilla. Oh yay. And that little bit of almond, you remember that? Look at that. Just that little tiny amount. Almost imperceivable. But boy, it sure makes it just that little edge of richness. I'm going to knock what's on the edges down a little bit, and then I'm going to turn this on a little bit higher, and we're going to cream those eggs in. Now this is the point at which you don't want to be tasting your batter or anything, okay guys? Because you don't want raw egg. It could have problems, and if you're thinking, well, if it has problems, should I bake with it? Hey, look, after it's been in a 375-degree oven, it's going to be okay. But if there's any problems with it now, you don't want to find out while it's raw, okay? Okay guys, we've worked that for yet another minute. Let's take a closer look. Now look at that gentle, light, foamy, almost frothy state we've worked it into. A very light state. Okay, now I have a good base here to start working in my flour. So I'm going to turn this on low. And another thing you guys need to understand about mixers, if it seems like it's really not doing what you need it to, don't worry about that. It's going to get it done. Like it looks all balled up on there. No, it won't be a problem. You'll see. You got to be careful with these dry ingredients, guys, because while these mixers will throw out liquid ingredients pretty easy, They love to toss out the dry stuff. Break it free from those sides. Guys, I have this beautiful, beautiful sugar cookie dough here. Isn't that gorgeous? And that's exactly what this is. That's a sugar cookie. Don't be fooled. You can turn this into any number of cookies, guys. At this point, it becomes pretty much just a recipe to have fun with and play with. Throw chips in there, throw nuts in there, put M&Ms in there. Yeehaw! It'll sound like it's going crazy, don't worry. Now this is a good point where if you wanted to use the dough hook, you can. I just finish it up with the paddle. Don't worry about it. Isn't that too cool? Now guys, at this point, all you have to do, get that beater off of there, finish folding those ingredients together, just give it a few turns with your spatula, and your dough is ready to go. We're then ready to get it on our baking sheet and get it in the oven. Again, I want to forewarn you, this beater is not something to hand to kids. My mother used to give it to us. Not once did it ever make us sick. However, there is no sense in having risk in life, especially when it comes to, something like listeria or salmonella or something like that, and God help you if you ever run into that. And look at that, guys. That is one beautiful, enormous batch of chocolate chip cookies. All right, now let's get it on the cookie sheet while we still have it putting out carbon dioxide so we get a good bake on them, okay? Let's go. Okay guys, what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and glove up. Now sometimes you'll see me do this on my show, and I do this for one major reason. It sure speeds up cleaning time. So I recommend that you get some of these inexpensive gloves. Pretty much any of the cooking supply stores sell these, and they sell them in box of 100, and usually they're going to run you about $8 a box. Most of the time that's what I try to pay for mine. So the hardware store, they'll run you a little bit more than that, but it's cheaper if you just go through the food stores and you get the food grade glove. Before I get this dough down on my sheets, a couple of things I want to mention. You're going to need, and I have several of these, but I'm going to put out more. I have here what's called a pan rack. These are racks to put in the bottom of a pan for different purposes when it comes to baking and commercial food. But they also work really, really good as a cooling rack for baked goods. So if you want to use these for that, otherwise break out some cooling racks. And if you don't have cooling racks, we'll just lay out some paper towels on a flat surface for you to put those cookies onto to cool down when they come out of the oven. My pans. When you go out and purchase pans, guys, you're going to feel like crying because you get these pans, they'll have these lovely coatings on them, and you pay a lot of money for them, and then over time they get a little more dark and a little more dark and a little more dark, and you can't clean that stuff off. And what that is that's baked on oil. Don't worry about it. Your beautiful silver pans are going to get a little bit darker, just like that one. And then with more oil and more use, they'll get a little darker, just like that one. And then with more use, they'll get darker like this one. And when they get to this point, guys, you have a decision. If you try cleaning this off, A, it's going to scrub off that coating, and then you have a pan that's going to be rusting every time you wash it. So you don't want to do that. That stuff just, it's baked on oil, okay, and it doesn't come off easy. It's the same thing as when you season a skillet. The stuff is hard as iron on there. It's very hard to get cleaned fully off of there, almost impossible once it's been baked on at high temperature. So don't worry about it. And if it gets to this color and you can't stand it, here's what you do. Cover the whole sheet with a really thin coat of oil. Pop that sucker into the oven in a high temperature, as high as you can get it to go. Bring that pan up to a smoking temperature and let it smoke until it stops smoking. Take the pan out and repeat that process a couple of more times. You will then have what's called a seasoned pan. Guys, that seasoned material, this brown, actually releases better than that stuff, okay? So don't fight it and don't worry about it. Our cookies. How big you make your spoonful will depend on the size of the cookie. What you want to do is just to rake out a little bit on a spoon, and you want to place it on your baking sheet just by pushing it off with your finger, Just like that. It doesn't have to be pretty, just a glob, just like that, guys. Don't get worked up over making these pretty. What you need to focus on is getting your spacing and sizing right. Okay, guys, we're going to play a game real quick here, and this game is which one of these doesn't belong. And if you chose this one right here because it's too damn big, you're absolutely right. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to reduce that to what it should be. There, now it's like the others. Okay, so you're looking for just a little lump that's about the size of half of a ping pong ball. Okay, if you were to round it out to that, that was about what it would look like. If you want, use a tiny scoop like a melon baller, and that'll give you an even amount each time. Otherwise, just get good at working it out, and any that you don't want down there, put right back on the spoon for the next cookie. Okay, spacing. If you're too close, them cookies going to grow together. And I'll say this dough is fluffy, it's light, and it is absolutely wonderful to work with. It's a fabulous thing when you make a good cookie dough, guys, and it comes out the way it should be. And I'm going to say something. Sometimes in the world of baking, you're going to bake something up. You're going to do everything right. Nothing is going to be out of place. Everything as it should be, and it's just going to go straight downhill on you. Guess what? When it comes to baking, that's just the way it happens sometimes, guys. Most of the time you can control the situation, but every once in a while something weird happens. And trust me, like major humidity changes make a big difference in how a cookie, or a cake for that matter, cooks up. Now, see those big old honking nuts I used in there? I didn't chop them down too much. I like to use big chopped nuts. And that way, I get something much more impressive in the cookie, I believe. I have one sheet ready for the oven. I'm going to go ahead and prepare another sheet while before I put this one in. Now, the beautiful thing of it is, you're not going to be baking all day long, okay? These things don't just take a long time to bake. Chocolate chip cookies get baked up in 8 to 12 minutes on average. All right, second sheet's ready to go. I think we're ready to get these things in the oven and start baking them up. Okay, guys, let's get those down in that oven. Now, when you're running 2 pans, sometimes that lower pan will get more bottom browning than the upper pan will, guys. And guess what? That's just part of the way things go. If you don't want that to happen, then what you need to do is halfway through your cooking time, swap the two out to even things up. Now that usually handles the trick. They won't be identical, but they won't be completely different either. So what we want to do, and if you want all of your cookies consistent, you need to just put them all on the same rack, one sheet at a time. But that takes a lot longer. All right, now let's go ahead. I'm going to set up our timer here. And I'm going to set, oops, I went over 9 minutes. Start. So we're going to check that in 9 minutes, guys. Guys, they just came out of the oven. Now, I'm one of those that likes my cookies just a little bit darker. Some folks like theirs just a little bit lighter than I do mine. You choose yours however you want them. These are still a little soft. Just pull them right up off of that. Isn't that beautiful? Now, guys, let's look at the bottom of one of those cookies. I'm just going to pick one out. See that color? Nice average brown color. Right now, they're still soft. Yummy, yummy. There they are, guys. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? These beautiful, lovely chocolate chip cookies. Look at that. I like mine extra dark on bottom. Now, that comes with a consequence. When you go for that darker edge and the darker bottom like I like, it causes it to drop just slightly. Not a lot, but just a little bit. So if you want your cookies to be just slightly thicker than what you see here, instead of doing that 9 minutes like I did, just drop it back by a minute. 8 minutes. Bam. You'll have that little thicker cookie, lighter on top, with a light brown crust on the bottom. Now, I just love stuff like this. You know the cool thing about a cookie like that? It brings back memories. Those childhood memories, boyhood memories. Wonderful. Christmases. It's amazing how strong food can be when it comes to triggering memory. It's robust. Pardon me, folks, that's just so good. I can't stop eating. Hey, I would like to say thank you very, very much for watching Texas Cooking today. If this is your first time to watch, do me a favor, please subscribe. I'm going to have recipes coming out for you on a regular basis, and it's going to be such good, wonderful stuff. If you have subscribed, I would like to say thank you very much and cheers to you guys. Please, if you like this video, click that like button. Leave me some comments or questions. I'll gladly do my best to provide you with the answer that you're looking for. And guys, one other thing, please have a good day. Bye-bye.